Hey everybody, I am back and I was just on a family vacation for a couple days, so sorry I didn't live stream while I was out in the middle of nowhere, Utah. But yeah, now I'm back and I thought today I'd talk about error handling in React 16 and specifically testing this new lifecycle method that was introduced in, yeah, I guess it was React 16, maybe .2 or not sure what version exactly, but in any case, it's a really cool API. It allows us to catch an error that happens anywhere in the React lifecycle from this component and all through its children. And so here's the docs for component to catch. They're actually pretty minimal. You'll get most of your value reading this blog post about error boundaries. But yeah, so making the assumption that you know what error boundaries are, we're gonna try and test this because I noticed people have had a lot of questions about testing error boundaries with React and Enzyme, and I think for some reason it's not supported or something, and so I wanted to try it out with React Testing Library, and it totally is. So here is the component. It's a bomb button. And here we have our error boundary, and that error boundary just has this state of has error is false, and it has a component to catch, which will get error and info. I forgot what those are. I'll have to, we'll look at those in a little bit. I think error is like the JavaScript error, and the info is like where in the tree it was found or something like that. But then in render, we say if it has an error, then there was a problem. Otherwise, we'll just render the children. And so then here, this bomb button has some state for render bomb. And if render bomb is true, then it'll just render the bomb, which will execute some JavaScript in the render method that blows up. There is no this.bomb in, can't call kaboom on it. And then here we have our button. If we haven't rendered the bomb yet, which is initialized to false, then we'll render this button and we'll handle bomb click, which will render the bomb. Okay, pretty simple. In a actual practical scenario, you'd probably put this around like maybe your entire application, like at the root or something, to catch any JavaScript lifecycle errors. One thing that's important to note is if you have like this will report errors that happen in render or in component lifecycle methods. But if you're doing something asynchronously in one of those lifecycle methods, then your error boundary won't catch anything in those situations. It has to be synchronously running in the same event loop as the rest of your component lifecycle. So anyway, so when I think about testing stuff in with React and like just in general, I try to think about how would a manual tester test this, and that helps me avoid testing implementation details. And so here, if I was to render this onto a page and look at it and click around, this is what I would do. I would render the bomb button, and then I would go and like this button would be rendered. I would go find the button that has the bomb in it, and I would click on that, and then I would verify that this report error was called. Maybe like in an actual, if I was a user actually using the browser and clicking around and stuff, then I would check the network tab or something to make sure that the network was made or request was made. We're not going to do that because we don't want to actually make network requests in our unit tests, and so we'll mock out this report error. But in any case, that's the important thing. I want to make sure that report error is being called properly. And then also as a user, I would want to make sure that the error boundary is rendering the right thing. And so I'll check that it was a problem is rendered. So those are the things. I want to go find the bomb button and click on it. Then I want to verify that there was a problem is rendered and that report error was called. So thinking about it in terms of the way that a user would test this manually can really help us like figure out how we should be testing this ourselves. So let's go ahead and we'll make a test. This is in React Testing Library examples. I'm putting it, and actually, in case you're not familiar, library examples. React Testing Library examples can be loaded into Code Sandbox, and we have tests that actually will run in Code Sandbox. You can pop open the tests, and they'll run, and you can make changes and stuff. You can contribute to this through Code Sandbox and stuff. It's cool. But we also have local tests because Code Sandbox doesn't support mocking. That's like pretty much the biggest thing. Also, like snapshots, I guess. I should probably add an example of snapshots. It will run your snapshots, but it can't update the snapshots in the browser. So anyway, that's why we have this local test, is for situations where we need to do some mocking, and we want to mock out this report error, and so we're going to put this in local tests. Not in a folder, in a file called component did catch.js. And yeah, let's go run test, watch. And it's gonna complain because we don't have any tests. So let's go ahead and make a test. I'm gonna start with import, well, here we'll just start with test. I don't know, calls report error and renders that there was a problem. Something like that. That's what we want to test. So let's write this out. Act, let's see, arrange, act, cert. So for arrange, we're going to render our what. Sometimes our friend VS Code wants to help us out, and sometimes it does a good job, and most of the time it doesn't. I pretty much never had that work very well. Anyway, we're going to render our button, our bomb button. Okay, there we go. That helped. And Prettier will fix the quotes and spacing for me, which is nice. So we'll render the bomb button, and here we're going to get by text because we need to get the text that says bomb button. I also want to fire an event for the click. So we'll fire event click. I'm also, while I'm up here, going to import React Testing Library, clean up after each, so I don't have to worry about clearing the DOM after each one of my tests. And we're rendering React, so we need to import React from React. And I feel like we're gonna use some, well, here, we'll get to that later. Okay, cool. So we get by text, we're going to act. So get by text, and we'll just do the bomb. And that was control command space. That's what pops that up. The reason I'm saying that is because everybody always asks me that anytime I do it. A handy feature. In fact, right here, emoji. Yeah, in edit. In almost every edit, there's emoji and symbols right there. That's what will pop that up. Okay, so we're going to click on the button. That's our action. And then our assertion will be that our container has some text. So we'll get our container. That's where our bomb button is being rendered. And we'll expect the container. And we want to have a really nice assertion. So we're going to import jest dom extend expect. And that will allow me to do expect container to have text content. And we'll just copy this. We have that. Okay, cool. So that does most things. We're going to get a bunch of errors, but the test actually passes. So what we're getting are console errors that are happening through JSDOM because there's an error being thrown and not being caught. And then there's React is out too. So because we actually are handling the error, we don't need to see these. And so what I'm going to do is I'll add a before each. And that'll be just spy on console error. And then a console error dot mock implementation. So we're just gonna mock it out so we don't have to worry about that. Then we'll have an after each to clean up after ourselves for mock restore. There we go. 1 second, I think my wife's coming in. All right, yeah, she just brought in the dog. Here, let me give you a treat. All right, so yeah, with that gets rid of all the console things. This is a little bit dangerous because if something breaks or something and it starts logging errors that actually would be useful, then we don't actually see those. So we could actually add here, let's add a console log, console.error.mock.calls.length. So we see how many times it was called. Twice. Yeah, that makes sense. Once from what's it? From virtual DOM or from, sorry, the JS DOM virtual console, and once from React. So we could do expect console error mock, or sorry, console error to have been, to have been called times twice. And then actually I think you can add an error message or a message to this after each restore console error. Here, actually, let's leave that off for now. Just make this fail. So if we expected it 3 times and it was called only twice, then that's what it'll look like. And then we can kind of improve that error message by giving this after each a title. Oh, maybe that's an Ava thing. That's too bad. Well, in any case, yeah, that would be kind of nice to have that. What would be even nicer is if I could add a message here. That would be nice, but there's a GitHub issue open for that. Okay, cool. So we could add that just to avoid potential problems, and I'll leave that there. Okay, sweet. So we're not totally done. So this report error, in our case, it's actually not making any AJAX calls or anything. If it were, though, then we could potentially be like see errors pop up because that request failed or something. So our test is actually not totally synchronous, which makes things a little bit interesting. But there's nothing in our code that's actually waiting for that to happen. So like what we could do is have like a then and then do our set state. But in a real application, you normally don't care if the error report succeeded or failed. You want to just let the user carry on, and hopefully the error report will work. And so it's kind of a fire and forget. And so it's kind of hard for us to really know when things are finished. But what we pretty much, all we really care about is that report error is called for our test. So what we're going to do is, and also like report error is not just going to return a resolved promise. It's going to use Axios or something like that. So we're going to mock that out in our test. I'm going to add a jest.mock for utils, and this is my module factory, and I'll return a report error that's going to be a jest function that promise resolve and success true, or whatever my mock data will be. Okay, so then for me to get this jest function, I need to import it like it's a normal module. So I'll import report error from utils, and that's the same utils. This is one directory up, so here we have that, and it's jumping up to get this utils, and that's the one that's just getting. So when we do this mock, it's going to get our utils there. And then this report error is the mocked version, so we can assert expect that report error to have been called times once and to have been called with the error, which is any object for now, and the info. Now I could inline those, but I like giving that a variable name so I can kind of have that as part of my assertion. It's going to be the error in the info, but I don't have to give those variable names. That's no reason that I would actually have to. Yeah, and that works pretty well. So let's go ahead and just give that an empty object, and we're going to get a type error. So let's see, we could probably change this to any type error. Sweet. And then this info, just want to harden my assertions here. Print stat. So it's is that an error object? Or let's see. Console log this thing. Oh. Here, let's see. Object get prototype of. Oh. So. I don't know. What is it? Here, let's look at the docs. They're helpful. Info. Nope. Oh. Okay, I guess it's just an object that has the component stack. Okay, cool. So we can harden this a little bit. We can say info is an object that has component stack. That is a string. Expect string containing the expect containing expect string containing. We could maybe snapshot this. Yeah, we could snapshot, but let's see what it would look like. Expect report error.mock.calls at 0. Or actually, we could just snapshot all the calls. That would take care of this, because if it's an array of one item, then we know it was only called once. Do match snapshot. We'll comment all this stuff out and use the snapshot instead. Now, if we look at snapshots, we can see this is the calls, and this is the first call. This is the first argument of the first call, and the second argument. That looks pretty good. The problem is that this snapshot will change every single time you change this code, because those line numbers. So I'm not going to snapshot this. That would be silly. Okay, cool. Well, that was a fun experiment. So we'll get rid of all this stuff, make our assertion a little bit more specific. It's just a string containing button. And that is what info is. We'll update to remove that. Okay, cool. Sweet. And yeah, that's that. That's testing a component to catch. So a couple things that we had to do, and what you'll probably have to do in a typical component to catch scenario is you want to make sure, like, remember, think back on like how would an end user be able to test this. Don't like call component to catch or anything like that. That'd be silly. Users don't do that. Users interact with UI. So you click on the button, and then this function gets called. So we verify that. Users can't verify that a function was called, but you do some trade-offs here to make it reasonable. We don't actually want to make the network request. And then we are rendering, there is a problem, and we verify that a user could do that. So yeah, that is that is that. Here we're mocking utils. We're also spying on console and mocking the implementation to do nothing so that we don't have a whole bunch of stuff. And then we verify that it's called twice. That way, if there's another console error called somewhere else where it's actually useful, then we get that failure and we can go investigate what's going on. And what we could do is, if you really want to go nuts, then do a try catch and throw the error, and then console.log console.error or mock.calls.slice 2, or maybe 1. Yeah. So you get everything that you didn't expect would be logged. So you could do something like that. I'm not going to. Yeah, I hope this was helpful. I am going to commit this to the examples repo, and you can go check it out. And yeah, I'm going to check for questions. No questions. I'm going to jump out. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.